You stole my heart of gold after my silver soul. Can you dig any deeper now? I gave you all I own.
Hey guys, so yeah, pretty much today I just really wanted to talk to you guys how to actually take care of your puppies, because lots of people get things wrong when it comes with feeding your puppies. Like, how much do you give them? And I'm just gonna say, like, man, it really just depends. It really depends how much do you actually give to your puppies, just because, like, you can't always follow that 1cc per ounce method, right? Let's say, for example, like, let me throw this, like, okay, your puppies are born, and let's just say, for example, like, mom's not in the picture, right? Mom's not in the picture, and I told you guys I only tube feed. I don't bottle feed, because me personally, like, long story short, bottle feeding sucks to me, because they can be puppies can be sucking up air, or you don't know how much you're giving them, and also it takes very long, and you could aspirate the puppy, which is why, like, I hate bottle feeding. So let's just talk strictly for tube feeding now, and then I'll start talking about puppy whelping as well. So like feeding naturally with mom, like mom's nipples instead. So when it comes with like tube feeding, right, lots of people would say you got to do the 1cc per ounce method when it comes with feeding your puppies. So as I said, let's say, for example, your puppies are 8 ounces, right? An 8-ounce puppy. So the 1cc per ounce method, you pretty much feed it at least 8 cc's of milk. But when there are newborns, I don't recommend to do that, because puppy stomachs are not as big. They're not big. They're not as expanded. They're not flexible yet. So you can sometimes get biofit, right? Every puppy, every litter, every female is different. So you can't just always do the 1cc per ounce method for your puppies. So if I was you, I would recommend, like me personally, I recommend at least 3 to 4 ounces less in his body weight. So an 8-ounce puppy should probably only be getting at least 4 to 5 cc's instead of the full 8 cc's, which is why I don't recommend it. So, and then this is for the ones to say, like, okay, how much do I give my puppies if they are bottle feeding, or if they are syringe feeding, or feeding with mom. Then with me, with that, I told you guys, I don't like bottle feeding. Bottle feeding is trash. It sucks. I hate it. But let's say, for example, like feeding with mom. Now, this just depends. There's factors to it. If you're feeding with mom, I think the best way to tell, like, if you're feeding with mom, it's most likely going to be, like, you just have to feel the puppy's stomach, right? You have to feel the puppy's stomach, and that's pretty much it that you have to do. See if it's more parallel, if it's rounder than its rib cage, then you're good, right? Puppies, as I've mentioned before, puppies are not supposed to be as, like, when they suckle. I call it the suckle strength. When they're sucking on, like, you can test with your finger, and if it's wet, and you know, if it's at least suckling strong, then that puppy is good. Sometimes a lot of you guys call me like, man, your puppies can't suck, and once you get to that point, I can say, like, you just can't do much about it. You have to tube feed, which is why I advise you guys, I recommend for you guys to learn how to tube feed, because once you get to that point where your pup can't tube feed no more, like it can't suckle no more, you have to tube feed. You can't feed it with the milk. You can't bottle feed it. You can't syringe feed it, because it just won't have that strength to at least even swallow that milk, right? It can, but the thing is, like, it's just gonna take too long, and it's just sometimes sorry about that, excuse me. Sometimes it would just go away. Like, man, like, you're trying to feed it, and it just goes away. Like, man, I don't want this stuff. I don't want this. Some puppies are just like that. It could be sick. So you never know. Yeah, right. You never know. So you just have to, like, guys, I recommend learn how to tube feed, please. If you guys don't know what kind to use, I'll just put some pictures right here. Tube feeding, just 8 FR, 8 French size. That's the best size for beginners and experts. Anything lower, it's too small. 5 is, you can do it, but if you're new at it, it's still pretty small, where I think it's small enough to get inside the trachea, like the larynx, towards the towards the lungs instead, because if you're in the esophagus, then that goes towards the stomach instead, so you will know if it's correct. Let's just pretty much say the tube that goes inside the lungs are smaller, and if you go through that and you go to the lung and you inject, you will drown the puppy. You can kill the puppy, which is why I recommend 8 French and 8 FR. That size, it's a bit bigger. It's a bit bigger, but it's still small enough, like a good size to pass through the esophagus to get towards his stomach. That's pretty much it. So, and then the size syringe that you should get is it could be any size, you guys. 8 French, 2 feedings. Although the hole is a bit bigger, you can cut it. You can cut it small enough to fit onto your small syringe that you can get at CVS or Walmart. And so size 10 cc syringe, right? A 10 cc syringe is perfect. 5, you could do it, but I recommend a 10, so that way you can draw more, and it's just the perfect size. It's just the perfect amount of cc's that you can get. Anything higher, you can't really get specific with how the syringe cc's are, like the milliliters, like the lines. Any bigger than that, you can't really get specific. So that's why I recommend just use a 10 cc syringe and you should be good. So yeah, man. So I'm just gonna say it's just that whatever method that you are feeding, 2 feeding, like with me, I love 2 feeding. 1 cc per ounce method, you can only follow that when the puppies are at least 4 to 5 days old, or it could be longer than that. You just have to tell. So I always make sure that when I 2 feed my puppies, every time when I inject, I also feel the puppy's stomach as well. After you're done 2 feeding and the puppy's round enough, hey, that's fine, right? Sometimes if it's just parallel and it's not as round, maybe you can give it a little bit more. But I just don't want you, for the first 3 days when the puppies are born, do not exceed, the 1 cc per ounce method, because you can possibly overfeed them, right? Overfeeding is a thing. You can bloat the puppy. It can kill your puppy as well, right? So I just want you to make sure that puppies are fine. So that's pretty much it, man. So hopefully that does help you guys out. I know that's one of the most common questions you guys ask me, like, hey bro, how much milk do I give to my puppies? If you're 2 feeding, that's what you do. If you're mama feeding, if you're milk feeding, breastfeeding, same thing. Natural feeding, what I recommend to do, all you have to do is feed with mom, right? You just have to feed with mom and make sure that they're strong. Make sure they're chilling, right? They're not supposed to be crazy. They're not supposed to be like rushing for food or hungry. They're thirsty for food. You know what, man? Puppies are actually supposed to be very chill. My Uncle Tommy told me this. They're supposed to be chill. Your puppies are not supposed to be crazy, trying to fight for milk, trying to fight for the nipple for each other, like survival of the fittest, literally. Puppies usually are supposed to be just chill. Like, yeah, I'm hungry. I'm gonna go get to the milk. I'm chilling. I'm eating. That's it. I'm gonna go to sleep. Right? They're not supposed to be crazy, right? Because if they're crazy, they can suck on the nipple, and then that's when they can start aspirating. You're like, man, I'm so hungry. I'm sucking very hard, and then it's going too much into my mouth, and then I'm trying to eat it, but I can't eat it because it's too much, and then I start to aspirate. It goes into my lungs, and that's how they actually develop pneumonia. And when you're separating, right? There's many factors how pneumonia happens. When you're separating, puppies are crazy. 1, 2. Mom's milk is building up as well. It's like a tank. It's like a storage tank. It's building up too much. So that's why with me, it depends when I separate the pups and mom. It really depends, but most of the time I keep my pups with the mom, because all my females, all my dogs, all the temperaments are pretty good. I don't really have to worry about them like killing my puppies or sitting on my puppies. And sometimes, especially if it's first time mom, I keep my eye on her for like the first 2 days, and after that, then that's when I put them together like 24/7. But most of the time, I'm in the room with her with the puppies, and just make sure like she just doesn't sit on them, or I don't hear any crying, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, for mama feeding, just make sure that the pups are just round. Their stomach is at least parallel with their rib cage. And if it's lower than that, if it's like it looks bony, then that puppy most likely would probably need some assist. So as I said, if you don't have 2 feeding, you guys, so let's say for example, you don't have 2 feeding, then what I recommend to do is feed with mom. Like if your puppy has enough suckle sugar, like it's sucking, it's at least doing something, right? It's not to the point where it can't suckle no more. Now, if it's there, like if it's there, then what I recommend to do is feed it with mom, right? Feed it with mom, because if you're a noob, you're an amateur, you try to bottle feed, you're most likely gonna aspirate that puppy because you don't know how much to give it. So feed it with mom. Out of that, squeeze mom's breast, the milk into the puppy, and you know, just do it one at a time until it eats it. One at a time. Let it finish it. Let it eat it, and then just try that. It's gonna take a while, but trust me, that is the best way to feed your puppies. And don't squeeze the shit out of it like a milk, right? Don't squeeze it like crazy. Just squeeze it one at a time. Let the pup eat it, right? Once it's finished, squeeze it again, and it's gonna take a while. When you squeeze milk, it's like just one little like drip. It's not even 1 cc. It's just like a little drip, like a little raindrop. Literally, it's smaller than a raindrop, and that's pretty much it that I can say. So, how often do you feed your puppies? With mom, as I said, it just depends. It really depends. Usually, they're supposed to be eating at least every hour. It's not every 2 hours. It's every hour. Right, they're every hour, and then, you know, make sure they're just stimulated, they're pooping and defecating and pissing, and you should be good. Tube feeding, on the other hand, it depends. If it's runts, usually about an hour and a half is when I feed them. About an hour and a half, 1 hour to an hour and a half for tube feeding for runts. For regular puppies, it's usually about around every 2 to 3 hours. I usually do it around average every 2.5 hours. That's pretty much it. So hopefully you guys enjoy the content and learn something from that, man. I just wanted to correct this, get this out of the way, just because a lot of people have been giving misinformation out there, and lots of people have been texting me like, hey man, I did the 1 cc per ounce method, and then puppies start choking out. You're doing too much, buddy. Lessen it up, especially for the first at least 3 to 4 days, at least 3 days especially. Lessen it up, man. Don't do the 1 cc per ounce method, and you know, do at least 3 to 4 cc's, maybe 5 cc's less than what its body weight is. You should be fine. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. Love you guys. Let's go, baby.